All right, we're back, and a rare back-to-back episode on the Ox and the Rat. I'm your host, the Ox.
And I'm the Rat.
That's not a rat voice. Let's be honest.
Trying to be prestigious.
Prestigious rat? Right. Yeah. Is that sort of like pizza rat?
Well, we had a bad reputation last year, the year of the rat.
That was a shit year, man. What a crappy
Trying to
year.
put on a new voice.
A more prestigious pizza rat-esque voice. Cool,
Mm-hmm.
cool. Pete, did you see the new Disney movie Soul?
I didn't know. Everybody's raving about it.
It is awesome. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm gonna watch it. I'm just waiting for the girlfriend.
Oh, yeah, that's a good call.
And I to have a peaceful weekend. You know.
Are there any other kind of weekends at this point?
Oh yeah, the fighting weekends.
Oh,
all
really?
that stuff.
So it's that much of a crapshoot that you're not sure. I mean, how do you even plan for that? It's like you have to assume it's bad to start with. It's gonna be bad, and then like, do you put in extra effort to like make up and to watch the movie, or do you just let everything slide so that you don't actually fight, but you still get to watch the movie?
That's a good question. I don't know. I have the movie prepared, so we'll see.
What do you mean by I have the movie prepared? I'm pretty sure I understand what that means, but
yeah, let's not get into details.
Right. Well, I have some news to share. As I was saying earlier, was like pretty sure I have COVID or whatever. And when got my test on Monday, I'm still waiting for the results, and got a call back today, and I don't have it. So it's like, what the hell is going on? Yeah, who knows, man?
Just a coughing cold.
It was pretty bad for me, especially I never get cold. I never get sick, and this one's persistent, as you can hear. Yeah, it's just like a dry chest cold, man. It's annoying. And now all of a sudden, that's put everything into motion. So now I'm definitely moving on Friday, Saturday. Yeah, it's crazy. Lots has got in motion. Kind of scary, but whatever.
This is a rental.
Yeah. It's and it's sort of like an in between. Like, I would really like to own property. This is not the greatest time to do that in this part of the world, but I also want to see if me and my partner would get along living together. That's a big step. So it's good either way. It needs to happen. And yeah, it's a good location. Good enough place. It's going to make my life a little bit more complicated for sure. With like, how do I do my workouts and stuff? But where there's a will, there's a way. That's for certain. We haven't done that moral yet, but...
No, I'm sure we will.
Yeah, and... Oh yeah, go ahead. I was just going to say there's other significant news on this day.
Oh, okay. I was just going to say, this is a recap because I was reading more about tech.
Oh yeah, cool.
This morning. I saw a flying car.
Finally. I think when I was a kid, I would say, guarantee, bet you $50, knowing I would not know these people for long. At this point, 20, I think I would always say 2040 flying cars, but it looks like my estimate's beaten. Tell us about it.
Well, this is I'm sure just the concept. It's by GM. It's essentially like a giant drone, like the fans being stacked almost on top of each other, and then it's kind of like an angular, like a triangle. In the back of the triangle, you have your drone propellers. 2-person, but that's a concept that's probably gonna be far away. I could just only imagine like them flying around the city, how noisy and annoying it would
Look
be.
up drone flying car.
Like
GM.
all these rich people flying around in a drone.
While the rest of us peons drive on four wheels. GM shows off flying car idea. The Cadillac Halo. Yeah, it's a good name. I like that.
Kind of cool that you could program, like a set course, and you could fly around the city or do specific things. AI will just do it for you.
Oh yeah, that's a nice. It's a small form factor. I'm really impressed by the footprint there. Huh. That's nice looking.
Yeah, check it out.
Oh, I am.
I also saw there's a Pocket Translator. I mean, I guess it already existed, but they have some new languages and whatnot. 85 languages. Could be good maybe if they have like Romanian or whatever language you're learning, and then you just say something into it. Like, hello, my name is Rat. And then it will say it back to you, and you could kind of, mimic it.
Yeah, that's like, I had one when I was younger. I just recalling this. I don't even remember why I would have it. Like, maybe was it for German? Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe like just for French. I don't know, but I guess the idea is to avoid. I mean, that's avoiding learning, right? That would be useful if you needed it at the time. But as far as learning goes, it's kind of a shortcut that's getting you away from, from the production testing side of things.
Yeah, I think it could be used as an aid though, because how you learn language as a kid, obviously your brain's not the same, but you could, a lot of listen and repeat type stuff could be useful.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, as long as it's part of, it's not like I don't know how to talk to this person here. Tell them what I want to tell them. Yeah, listen and repeat. Yeah, as long as it's part of a system, for sure. But
and useful for traveling. 85 languages. It also has a camera on it, so you could just scan, say, a menu or whatever. You could know what's on there. Pretty cool.
How's that different from
for the avid traveler?
Adding functionality over what a phone can do?
Well, depending on where you are, you may or may not have access to that. Specific programs, or if your phone sucks, like mine usually did. No data needed, I think.
What phone are you rocking?
Or they have like a 2-year data plan. iPhone 7.
Oh my god, you went iPhone. Of course you did. You finally just bought into the ecosystem, eh?
Well, I bought it off my girlfriend.
Right. Oh, I think you mentioned this before. Right. Yeah.
But I've always been a Mac user.
Sell out.
Yeah, so what were you going to say? What's your news?
So today the House voted to impeach President Trump, and 10 Republicans, oh my god, actually went alongside with it. So I was like thinking back to that November, it's the election is November the 4th. Those November episodes where it was like, what the fuck is going on? How did he get reelected to, yay, he's not reelected, to, oh my god, he's getting impeached again. Yeah, now it goes to the Senate.
Yeah. First president in history to be impeached twice.
Right. First asshole. Who you already had that one ticked off. Now he's also the first to be impeached twice. For sure. No, I'm sure there have been other asshole presidents, but...
Yeah. Anyway, impeached twice. Probably not going to happen, I'd imagine.
Well, it has to go to I believe it has to pass the Senate. And the Senate hasn't changed hands with the new election results, I don't believe. Oh, sorry. Slow day. I think they're all changing in the same time that Biden takes over, January 20th. Don't quote me on that. I'm a Canadian, not an American. So that means that it's still a Senate or a Republican-controlled Senate. So I can't imagine. But man, do you not just want that guy to just face the music before he goes? Okay, they only come back in session on the 19th too, because somehow the Senate is that lax. What a sweet job. You're just not at work for a while. It's like, oh, we're not working for a couple weeks. Like,
this takes a while.
Like, oh, this thing's not that important. Oh, yeah, I don't really. Hey, we all have to be together in the same room to make a vote. Like, what a joke, man. 2021.
Yeah.
Come on. Get with the times.
Use Zoom.
Yeah, Zoom that vote. That's a good placard. Zoom that vote. Zoom that vote. I can see it.
Well, it looks like a lot of, I guess just New York. They're kind of cutting ties with Trump.
Oh yeah, you saw that too, eh? That's more satisfying than anything, I think.
Yeah, the backlash for what he's done. But yeah, he makes I guess like $17 million a year off deals in New York, whatever that is, hotels and whatever. Who knows? So that it's good that it'll hurt his pocket. But I imagine, so I was thinking about this, like all of his hotels are all kind of like, a lot of his support comes from people obviously that are not lower class, but lower class, and then can, stay in his hotels, I'd imagine. Mm-hmm. So I was thinking when he gets out and say New York kind of shuts down business with him, what he might do is start like a fast food chain.
Yeah. Trump's Chicken? Trump waffles? Something like that?
Yeah. Something for the everyday voter.
Well, he does love KFC. And you can get a Trump taco bowl.
Yeah, that's actually up his alley. So 73 million, something like that, people voted for him. So
yeah,
I'm sure he'd do okay in certain areas.
God, that would be a divisive fast food restaurant. You basically live... Yeah, that would be fascinating. I would love him to do that. Just to see, like, the clientele. And that would be fascinating.
The mega burger.
Yeah, I mean, he does brand well, or at least... Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't even know if he does anything well. It's like saying that I don't know, like it's attributing all of his business, any of his success to him. It's like, did you think about the other people that are making that happen? Right? I guess you could say that about anything, but like, is this guy really like sitting around and like focus grouping, or going off shooting from the hip about like, I know exactly the term for this. I don't know. Maybe he is. Doesn't make him a genius, but like he has a whole organization of people who do branding. That's marketing.
Yeah, I think he might have like the odd inspirational moment where he says something off the cuff, but it's probably just his people. I mean, it's same like Tesla. I'm sure, Elon Musk has ideas, obviously, but you got so many people working for you carrying out those ideas too.
Well then, good intro. Interesting day, eventful. But let's get moving. What do you say with another fable?
Let's do it.
Okay, this one's called Hercules and the Wagoner. And for once, I don't need to explain what one of the characters is. So that's good. Hercules and the Wagoner. A farmer was driving his wagon along a miry. If you weren't
sure before,
I clearly don't read these ahead of time. a miry, M-I-R-Y, a miry road after a heavy rain. The horses could hardly drag the load through the deep mud, and at last came to a standstill when one of the wheels sank to the hub in a rut. The farmer climbed down from his seat and stood beside the wagon, looking at it, but without making the least effort to get it out of the rut. All he did was to curse his bad luck and call loudly on Hercules to come to his aid. Then, it is said, Hercules really did appear, saying, "Put your shoulder to the wheel, man, and urge on your horses." That's Hercules' voice. "Do you think you can move the wagon by simply looking at it and whining about it? Hercules will not help unless you make some effort to help yourself." That does sound like Hercules, right? Referring to yourself in the third person. I like that. Nice touch. And when the farmer put his shoulder to the wheel and urged on the horses, the wagon moved very, very readily, and soon the farmer was riding along in a great content and with a good lesson learned. That was interesting. I didn't see that going that way. You know, sometimes I forget it's not Grimm's Tales or whatever. And like, you know, when I remember reading I remember we all grew up with like the Ginger Hansel and Gretel and whatever. And then you read the original version and it's like, those kids got eaten, man. So sometimes when I read these, I'm like, oh, I could see where this is going. It's like, oh no, it's an okay ending. Okay. Right, so you want to give it a shot, moral?
Okay, so first of all, mired.
Yeah,
that's stuck in.
Yeah, it's like a muddy road, right?
Yeah. So he's stuck in the mud, calls for Jesus to
Hercules.
Come down, and then, oh yeah.
Although I feel like Jesus
Hercules
would definitely refer to himself in the third person too, or third person in the third person. Yeah.
I was trying to do a play off Zeus, but yeah, it was Hercules. Okay, so he calls him and comes down. He's like, "Help me out." Pushes it, or he's like, "Nah, do it yourself, and then I'll help." Or like start the process, and then I'll give you a little tap, put you over the edge. So let's see.
The ending is there. The ending is the key, and then
hard to wrap up in a sentence. Put in the effort, and the rest will follow.
Oh, that's good. It's close. Self-help is the best help. I like that. And this is a rare one. There are two attached. Second moral: heaven helps those who help themselves. I suppose that the first one's for the agnostic or atheist, and the second one is for the religious amongst us. So yeah, self-help is the best help, and heaven helps those who help themselves.
So it's up to you, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. However, I sure as heck have a habit, like I think everybody does, of saying, "God, please, if only, just one time, just help me out. All I need is..." So I do that too, even though I'm a very self-help oriented person. It seems like that's just a reflexive thing. Like it's culturally appropriated, or not appropriated, but it's just something I've learned to do. Appeal to a higher power. I wonder if we'd do that if we didn't have a culture that told us that there were gods. I feel like we might still appeal to somebody. Maybe not. I don't know. That's an interesting one. But I guess it's the action, right? Like I might say that, but I'll still try. I still have to do it myself.
Yeah. So if you have like a job interview and goes well, and then you're like, "Oh, come on," you're kind of just talking to yourself in a sense. Like, "Come on, I hope I get this." So you kind of are saying it to somebody or something. You're just talking to yourself, I guess, but it's as if you're talking to something out there.
Yeah, that's true. So we'd probably do it anyways because it's right. It's like, I deserve this. Come on, like I. Just give me this chance. I don't need to invoke anybody's name. But self-help is the best help. I'm going to leave that heaven helps those who help themselves because I'm not religious and don't believe in heaven. But self-help is the best help. Yeah, 100%. As a teacher, former teacher, current educator, and somebody who's learning a language, several languages, you've got to do it yourself. You can't rely on others. I remember, for example, I was waiting forever to get like my Romanian friends or acquaintances to record this audio for these, music diphthongs and triphthongs. There were some weird ones in Romanian, like ya and stuff like that. And I don't know those sounds, and I couldn't find them on the internet. And for those that I couldn't find on the internet, I was like, can I get some help? And I waited. And I was like, you know what? Screw this. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to try it. And it worked. It was hard. It involved me like looking at the IPA pronunciation, being like, what does an upside down E sound like? That was hard. But I learned a lot through doing it. And the other part of it too is like podcasts, man. Like I learned so much through podcasts, and it's just like me kind of orienting my life around things I'm really interested in. I curate like the content that I listen to very carefully because I know what I want, athlete, educator, lifelong learner. The last one's a bit broader, but I listen to that stuff. I help myself get through the cancer treatment. You got to do it yourself, and you rely on other people to do it for you. Let's take teaching and education, for example, right? When you let people do things for you, and we all know this, you take away a learning opportunity. Challenge is critical to learning. Without challenge, there is no learning. And you need to find ways to overcome challenge, or else you're going to be one of those people who's like, I can't do it. I can't stand hearing people say that. I'm like practically allergic to it. And I say it all the time to my partner. I'm just like, stop saying I can't. Like, why can't you? And then it's just like, I just can't. Like, that sucks. That really sucks. Why do you talk to yourself like that? Why do you tell yourself you can't do that? Yeah, so a little rant from the ox over here, but hell, I mean, yeah, how could you argue with that? Self-help is the best help.
Yeah, well, they've made a whole industry out of it, so I assume it works. It's also a money-making tool. Yeah, I use it a lot. Well, basically any problem I have, I just go to the internet. Sometimes that's good or bad if you're going into medical stuff.
Yeah. WebMD.
WebMD.
Do you remember, like, it's changed, eh? Do you remember how they used to be a lot more descriptive in their like diagnostic tool, the little body parts you'd click? It's changed a lot. I know because I went through the rabbit hole when I was like figuring out what was wrong with me, and before I figured out it was cancer. And like put me in some dark places, man. Really dark places, because it turns out cancer can be almost anything. And as I just learned, and as I even went there a few times in my head, just like, I didn't look up symptoms or anything, because I was like, well, I know the symptoms. It could be the same as everything else. But like, it wasn't COVID. Like, and at the end of the day, who freaking cares what it was? It was, what was the difference of me knowing what it was, unless it was going to lead to action? And I don't know that it ever would have. I mean, in this case, it would have affected, practically speaking, the move and all this junk. So I guess there's that. But so many times it's like, So if I knew I had cancer then, what would that functionally have done for me at that point? Like, I guess I still would have need to figure out like what kind of cancer it is. I don't know. I guess it's a bad example. How about knowledge that doesn't help? I don't know. I don't think.
Well, for example, you tried to self-help in a sense, like your diagnosis. So by self-helping, you kind of put yourself in a bit of, well, for cancer especially, or any other disease, you put yourself in some kind of depressing times by looking at some of the stuff, because every symptom is the exact same for every disease, it seems. And so you do need outside help, for diagnosis or things like that.
For acute, I always say it's for acute intervention. Acute, not chronic. Like, that's where things get real dicey. When people are like, I have a cough, I need to go, like I did, I need to go and get antibiotics. It's like, you're part of the problem now, right? Like, that's not helping. You need to figure out why you got the cough in the first place. You break your leg, then yeah, go and get it fixed. We're really good at acute care. At like chronic stuff. Yeah, I mean, let's imagine I wasn't moving in. What would have been the functional difference of me being sick with COVID or me being sick with H1 whatever frickin' version of of a different flu virus? I still would have stayed away from people. I still would have stayed in. I mean,
I guess it depends on the severity of the COVID, because you might be okay and think of it as like it might be asymptomatic, or you might just have like maybe a runny nose or something. I don't know, whatever. So then you might interact more with people, like maybe your parents or whatnot. So it could kind of, sneak in there, or you didn't notice, like maybe there's 10 days where you had it and then some symptoms come. Who knows?
Yeah, I guess.
So
but I guess,
that's
like,
the only difference.
Every people die from the common cold all the time, right? It's the same at-risk groups that suffer.
I don't know if cold.
Sorry, cold.
But,
cold is a virus from the common flu or whatever. Like, that happens every year. We talk about severe war. So I'm just saying, like some information, it isn't helpful, right? Like, what's a better one? I always think about like my work in my MEd degree. It's like I'm doing a program evaluation and survey analysis, data collection, stuff like that. The only things I could find that were potentially interesting and useful to my current career track. And like, but it's like every paper I read is the same ending. More research is needed. It's like, so what the hell was the point of this? I don't understand. This didn't help anything. So you began it by saying more research was needed, and you ended it by saying more research is needed. That's academics in a frickin' nutshell, man. I don't understand how it's useful if it's not applied, and I don't understand how you can judge whether or not the information was useful when applied, unless there's follow-up, unless there's like some kind of outcome of that. But often that's how they end. They just like, we did another study. It looks like more research is needed. Like, whoop-de-doo. Like, you guys, how are you making money? What value are you giving back? I hate it.
That's kind of the opposite of self-help, because they're like, okay, here's the idea, put it out, and somebody else do the research and let me know.
Yeah, I think their academics are so often like, are so many steps away from reality. It just doesn't matter. And then it's turf wars, and in order to create value, of course, you can't write a paper that says we agree with what this person did. That's not a paper, right?
Yeah, you
gotta argue it. You've got to come up with a new angle or something like that, even if it's not based on anything, and of course you're going to fit things into your own way of thinking. Like, that's what we do all the time. And again, the social sciences are not science. This isn't physics, which makes me question the whole thing.
I love how you're doing that in like second year and third year, and you're like, okay, let me get a new angle on like World War II.
Oh man,
like,
I did that. I did that for my thesis on World War One, Battle of the Canal du Nord. I did uncover some interesting things, I think, at a more minute level. But it ended there, right? And it's all post facto analysis. So what use is it in the end? It's not like, so I think it was useful for me from a skill standpoint, learning how to sift through research, learning how to stitch together a narrative, whatever. But what use is it of to wider society? I really don't. It's kind of depressing to think that all your work was for naught. I mean, not, I guess, for my own personal development, maybe it was certainly useful, but like, it's not helping anyone. It's like people writing about, we shoulda, woulda, couldas in history. Like, you can have that all day, and they can be fun entertainment, but let's distinguish the fact that it is entertainment. It's not like science. It's not science. No.
Yeah. Well, you actually went over and researched.
Yeah, I was in the
stuff. A little different than like going to the library and pulling out 5 required books or something.
Yeah, I was in the archives for that. That was kind of fun. I mean, to touch the original documents. I did not wear gloves. I should have. Think about it.
In France?
No. I went to the battlefield in France to get a feel for the terrain. And otherwise, it was actually the documents which was perfect because I was in Ottawa. So I had like a summer where I was back in Ottawa and the archives were there. I was living there, obviously, so I got to do the archival research in my native city over a summer. Self-help is the best help.
I forgot what
There you go.
Yeah. I think we nailed it there.
I helped you, so maybe sometimes you need somebody to step in. Maybe there's a role for others helping you out. I don't know. Of course there is. Is it the best help though?
Yeah, I think like the story or the fable says, you got to get the ball rolling first, and then you can ask others. You can't just be like, how do I do this? And just have no, like, you just didn't put any effort in on your end, and you're just like trying. It's like, yeah.
Right.
So you actually have to do a little bit of research, a little background information. You got to be a little bit knowledgeable so that when somebody goes to help you and they're like, oh, well, actually you need a new layer here and you got to have blah, blah, blah. You actually understand the jargon. You understand the ideas behind it.
Right. Heaven helps.
And then you're going to get more. Yeah, you're going to get more out of it.
Heaven helps those who help themselves. Ooh, that's a great one. You just gave me some ideas there. What about, I think as a former teacher, this has a lot of useful applications to my past. Was I willing to help people who hadn't put in the effort? Hells no. That was one of my like stops. I was like, I'm not doing shit for you unless you do something. How annoying is it when people come and they say, well, I'm asking myself a rhetorical question. So annoying when students would come to me and say, I don't know what to do. Or I don't get it. That's the worst one of all. I don't get it. Like, what's it? I would say that every time. What is it? What do you not get? What is it that you don't get?
Identify the problem.
I don't get it. Like, okay, do you want to describe what it is you're having trouble with? You know? And you just go through your teacher talk and be like, well, what have you done? What have you done to try and solve your problem? I don't know what to do. Like, what do you not understand? I would just constantly go through a cycle like this because it would always lead to something with the kids. But frankly, like, let's stop coddling the fuck out of children and ourselves. Like, right? You know, it's so obvious.
I got a good example. I didn't read the whole thing, but have you ever heard of Bean's dad?
No.
Okay, so he became kind of popular and I guess disliked because I didn't read the whole thing, so maybe it was bad, but essentially his kid wanted a can of beans and they had a can opener. I think they're 9.
Yep. Keep going.
Yeah. I think they're 9 or something like that. And he's like, well, you got to figure it out then. Like, I don't know how to use a can opener. And then he's like, do it yourself. And I guess apparently it seems like an exaggeration that it would go on this long, but I think it took like 6 hours or something like that. But maybe you don't want to leave it for 6 hours, or you could give some, like, maybe some hints or something. But I mean, that approach of letting somebody struggle and figure something out is not bad.
No, and it's that zone of proximal development, right? For all you educators out there, I have a feeling the one person who listens to this is a teacher. I'm probably not, but if you are, right, that's the idea behind social constructivism, the zone of proximal development. It's the idea that you're capable of a sphere of things already. So learning doesn't happen where you can already accomplish things. And that's a good lesson for everybody who wastes their time with like the same games over and over again. If you're good at Sudoku, you're just good at Sudoku. You're not learning skills at this point. You know, it's so domain specific. It's not really, if you're great at Scrabble, it's like maybe try something different, right? Because the learning happens outside of that circle. Now, there's the other circle beyond where you can't do anything. You don't know this stuff. Like for this case, you know, as a kid, can't open a can of beans, right? The trick as an educator is to, you know, the metaphor is lending a hand across that zone because it's in between those two zones where learning happens, right? That's the zone of proximal development. And in experiencing that struggle, and it is a struggle and it is a challenge, and that's another thing that people need to remember, parents as well, parents and kids, it's not, learning isn't supposed to be easy. Overcoming that challenge, resettling in a new layer, that is where learning has occurred. And it's your job as an educator, as a parent, we're all educators, to help people cross that divide. Don't do it for them, but lend a hand. Or maybe give a suggestion, right? So.
Yeah, don't just stare at your computer screen while your kid tries to open beans for 6 hours.
So there's a good lesson in there. Yeah, struggle is important, but it's not about, because that's the other part too, right? Like that kid may have opened the beans. Did he open the beans?
I don't know what happened.
So let's assume he opens the beans, right? He accomplishes this task. But the trauma of doing it is akin to saying, I don't ever want to do this again, right? That happens. So that's another thing.
Yeah.
And this is where, you know, as a learning designer, we have to be careful when we design interactives as well. It's like learning can't be too easy or too hard. Again, it comes back to that idea. Did you provide the support, the context, etc.? Is there enough there for them to figure this out on their own with some struggle, the right amount of struggle? Mm-hmm. And that's, you know, it can be a tricky thing to define, but it's not too difficult to understand, frankly.
Yeah, if it's too easy, it's not satisfying. Nobody feels good when they accomplish it. They just feel bored doing it. Too hard, you struggle, you give up. When you're able to reach the goal, you're like, yes, I did it.
Right. It's like having it's like doing training for a marathon, right? I love fitness ones because it's in my wheelhouse. And like, you know, I'm gonna run a 5 whatever. I don't know. I've never ran that distance, so I don't know the numbers. Let's go back to something I know. 5K, right? I had never run one before, and this was while I was finishing up my chemo. And I was like, I want to do this. This is something that I know I want to be able to do. I'm tired of not being good at it, and I feel like it's a human skill I should learn. So I was like, the goal is to run a 5K. I'm not going to run one today, nor do I have a time to even associate with it. But just the running a 5K was a good enough challenge, and it was clear enough that I knew how to accomplish it. It's a SMART goal in a sense, right? You know, I guess you'd argue it wasn't specific enough. I don't know though. I think it was specific. It's 5 kilometers. You know, I can measure 5 kilometers, right? It was a SMART goal. I'm just not being too minute with the details of it, right? And then it was, you know, I could run 1K. What does 1K feel like? I didn't even know. And there was 2K, 3K, 4K, 5K, and then you had a time. And I had a time, and it was like, okay, I run a 5K in this. And like, that's how it's done. I mean, that was putting one foot in front of the other, running, and that part I understood. That was it, right? I got a little bit of assistance where I needed it. I looked things up. It's like, well, is there any techniques I need to think about? Sure. But it was within my zone of proximal development. I couldn't do it, but it was outside of my current skill set. It was achievable, though. Yeah.
And achievable.
Right? Am I ever going to run a marathon? Great question. I don't know. But yeah, that's all it is, right? People forget that all the freaking time, right, man. It's like, I do brain training games. Like, so you're really good at counting birds. Like, I don't understand how you think that that's going to, you know, make you smarter.
Unless you're an ornithologist.
In this exact context where there's a number of the same colored birds that aren't actually camouflaged into their surroundings, you know, like, and why? How is that a skill? Like, why would you? In what context would that be relevant? Like, who's going out there and saying, I'm going to stand by this tree every day against the same background and count these birds, and then I'm going to do that again, and somehow that is useful information? Like, it's not context.
Unless it's data collection for the history of that tree, how many birds go to that specific tree over 10 years.
Sounds like you've got a paper to write.
Yeah. More research is needed.
Yeah, that's a good one. Holy shit, we're at 43 minutes already? I had no idea. Yeah. Wow. Okay.
So, yeah, we got to wrap up here. Agree or disagree?
Yeah, totally agree. And except for that heaven part, people will only want to help you after you've tried to help yourself, kids.
It's true. So put in the work.
The effort. Flex those muscles. Right. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody, on this surprisingly long episode. And yeah, go help yourselves.
Yep.
Ta-ta.
Ta-ta.